Hello, happy Sunday everybody. It's another episode of DKW. We're a different kind of woman because we're strong, independent and unique. On today's show, we're talking about childhood obesity. Now, are we making our children overweight or is it just a little bit of baby fat that we're just crying over? Should we get our kids off of the PlayStations and into the playground? Well, that's what we're going to be hashing out on the couch today with my co-presenters. But we do have more coming up, so take a look at this video. Next, we're going to play red card, green card game. And at 4:10, we'll find out what the people on the streets think with Jennifer Lon. At 4:25, see our presenters exploring the great outdoors. And at 4:30, we'll be speaking to weight management practitioner and nutritionist Tina Roberts. So obviously I'm not alone in the studio. I have my lovely co-hosts with me today. I have the lovely Verena, Gemma and Maria. Ladies. Hi. How are you?
Very well, very well.
I mean, today's topic, childhood obesity. What are your dibs on the topic?
Oh, it's really difficult, you know. I think when it comes to children, I think every parent would probably want their best for their children, and sometimes you feel that you're giving your best. And you know, you don't know where to draw the line, and I know we're going to talk about this a lot more, especially if you are feeding your children when they're hungry. You know, that's what you want to do, and then if they do get bigger...
Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
I know! If they do get bigger, it really is hard to then have that conversation or to put them on a diet or to make them exercise, etc. Because you also don't want them to be insecure to say that you're not good enough at that size. So it's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Yes, it is difficult.
I mean, Verena, you're a mummy. What's your take on the whole subject today?
For some mothers, they might think, well, feeding my children is actually a good thing. So that's my take on it. Okay. And you'll hear more from me.
I'm so curious.
Gemma's face is like,
I literally looked at her like, you what? It is a good thing.
She's wanting to hear more now, Gemma.
I want to hear, yeah, I'm curious. Yeah.
Right, then Maria, what do you think about today's topic?
I think it's a great topic, and I think it's something that should be talked about a lot more, and I'm sure on the show we're going to talk a lot more.
Well, let's get straight into it. Ladies, you know, as tradition on DKW, we always have our red card, green card game. So I'm going to throw some questions at you. Green, for those of you who don't know, means yes, and red card means no. So, first things first. Do you think you should talk to your children about their size? So green for yes, red for no. No? Okay.
Oh, no, actually, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Okay, you changed. Verena, what are you choosing?
I think I'm on the fence on that.
You're not allowed to be.
I know.
You're not allowed to be on the bench.
I know.
You see, that's what I wanted to do.
We don't have a yellow card, you see.
We should have a yellow
We
card.
should have a yellow card.
Everyone will be showing yellow all the time, you know what I mean?
Do you think you should be discussing, let's be more specific, dress sizes then with your children, regardless if they're male or female? And I personally am going to throw in a spin afterwards on that one.
Yeah. Okay, so while she's thinking, I said no originally because I thought, you know, anyone size, it does matter. People say size doesn't matter, but to me, I think it does matter. And I said no because I thought, oh, I don't want to sort of put that pressure on them. But then I said, actually, I would, especially if I had a daughter, I would talk to her about size in terms of, don't feel pressurized by a certain size, and I would talk to her about it. So then I said, yes, I would, because I would say, don't feel pressurized by a lot of the things that you see out there, like being a certain size. Yeah. Because, you know, that one size doesn't fit all, unfortunately.
It's true, but then why is it that we should be, you know, gearing towards our females and not towards our males? Because guys, I don't know if you noticed.
It's just as bad.
Yeah, guys now these days I think that there's a lot of pressure on them to bulk up or to have a certain physique or look about themselves. So do you think then that if you've got a boy and he's a bit on the tubby side and he's putting on the pounds slowly, you should just leave him be?
No, I'd let his father deal with it.
The reason why I think I'm on the fence, because I think it depends on the age of the child.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. I think if you've got a child who's what, 5, 6, 7 years old, I don't think you should be talking to the child about his or her weight, because then you're bringing in insecurities. I think as a mother, you should take on that responsibility and do something about it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because the child usually at that age is that size because of the parents.
Because of the parents.
To be honest.
Mind you would be surprised what they eat at school.
It's true, but at home, imagine most of their meals come from home, so they've got breakfast and dinner usually, and then the weekends.
Yeah.
Now, if the parent is feeding them junk food, etc., then they're usually going to be quite chubby. Their meal at school, that lunchtime meal, can't make them a chubby child if you are feeding them. Do you know what I mean? And if you have implemented exercise,
but I also think
routine.
Talking about school dinners,
terrible.
I also think that a lot of parents think school dinners, then their children come home, they're hungry. And a lot of times, I think what it is that the parents think the children are not eating enough at school. So when they come now, and I've seen lots of parents do this as well, you know, their children are coming out of school straight in the sweet shop. Straight in the sweet shop, and all you see is, I'm not saying all parents do that, but I have seen enough parents doing something like that.
Sorry, ladies, to stay on this one. Wouldn't you argue, though, however, if you don't tell them about their size, someone will do at school? Well, because that's where a lot of bullying comes from. And the reason why I say that is because I actually went through that as a young child. And I'm glad, maybe my parents were very clever in the way they highlighted my size and they didn't put me down. However, they did make me aware of my size. So even though I was bullied a lot at school, I knew
How old were you then, Jennifer?
I was about 6 or 7. And I was I was a big child. I mean, put it this way, I was wearing size 12s roughly around 9 or 10.
So how did that happen though?
Okay. Well, it wasn't solely my parents. It was, I have to confess, I was at the root of it, because I would get pocket money because, you know, you want to buy your little toys and stuff. And I preferred, like, you know, the little sweets and the penny sweets. And, you know, £1 with penny sweets, you can buy 100 sweets and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's mine.
My issue is telling the child about their size as though they've got they do have the power to do something, but I feel like it's up to the parent when they're younger to educate them.
It is up to the parent.
In the hope that they will continue with those life lessons into their teens and into adulthood.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that you need to educate them again by being an example. So then if there is activities at home, but a lot of the times kids can, like Maria was saying, they have chocolate. Sometimes I see kids on the having breakfast and eating like crisps, do you know, for their breakfast on the bus. And I don't like to judge parents because obviously they're busy, etc. But you think, gosh, you have that packet of crisps, by 10 o'clock you're going to be starving. You get the sugar rush, it's not doing anything for you. And then when you come home after school, it's like video games or sitting on the couch watching TV. We don't do enough exercise in this country, I think, so that all contributes to it.
Yeah, but I think, Jennifer, as well, we need to be very careful when we talk about children, you know, about their weight.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the reason why we should really have a yellow card. Sorry, I'm going to keep saying that. No, seriously, this little girl, I mean, she's what? I think she was about 9 at the time. And I'm not sure which member of the family told her about her weight.
Right. Was she overweight or underweight?
Well, I think she's a little bit overweight. Right. I would say she is. I mean, a little bit overweight, but, you know, that can increase. Now, the thing is, when she was told about her weight, suddenly she stopped eating at school. She stopped taking, you know, packed lunch, and she would just have an apple throughout the day, and that even the breakfast she wouldn't have. So we have to be really careful of how, you know, if you're going to say something about weight to a child, you have to be really sensitive.
Very sensitive.
Really have to choose our words.
Yeah.
Well, and then in that case, it brings me on to my next question then. Do you think then the food producers are responsible for childhood obesity? Because think about it, is there enough variation out there or there isn't? Or is it solely, once again, down to the parents? So green card if you think, yes, the food producers are responsible, or red card if you say no. Oh, Jem, seeing as you got 2 of them against you, you go first.
I say green because I feel that sometimes packaging is a little bit misleading. So, you know, you see, like, even for myself, when I'm buying for myself, I get so taken in by fortified with this and da-da-da. And then I learned from a nutritionist that actually isn't good. If they've taken out all the stuff and then they've had to fortify, it doesn't mean it's good. And I feel that there's a lot of hidden things in products that parents don't know about. And you really have to educate yourself. And a lot of the times, if you try to have whole foods and the good foods that will make you and your child healthy, I think that a lot of the time it's really, really expensive to do. Do you see what I mean? And I think that's why some parents don't go organic, or they do go for the cheaper option, which is not necessarily the best. And they have a lot of sugars and hidden sweeteners, etc., which is making them and their children sick and bigger. And they don't realise, you know, like for example, I know this week you were saying about you were shocked at how much sugar was in milk.
Yes.
That shocks me completely.
The kiddies milk. You know, it was
that really shocked
scandalous.
me.
I was watching a programme and they were showing how many grams. You know, when you see at the back when it's saying 17 grams, that's literally, once you've broken it down, how many grams of sugar is in that product. And then they were basically, the talker was showing that by the time the child is 5, they would have had a whole barrel of refined white sugars.
You see, and then they get addicted to that sugar.
Yeah.
And you don't realise, but you are getting addicted to that high that you get into your body, and then you want more of it, and then you get hungry, and you get hungrier and hungrier, and you're always hungry. Whereas if you have the whole foods, which are a little bit more expensive, you do feel fuller longer. But a lot of parents, if you've got 2 or 3 children, you can't think all the time to buy organic or to buy those whole foods, because they're a lot more expensive, I think.
But so then in that case, Verena and Maria, what do you think of it? Because you say the food producers aren't solely to blame.
Yeah, I look, my stance is this: as a parent, you're meant to be a guardian, a watcher for your children. And it's your responsibility to be responsible in the things that you cook for your children, in the things that you buy. So I think producers, it's a business. They work on supply and demand. So, you know, we can't hold them responsible for the things that they put out there. But what we can do is take personal responsibility for the things that we buy. For the things that, as parents, the things that we buy for our children, the things that we bring into our homes, you know. And I remember when my kids were little, I would make a point of cooking things from scratch. All the meals were cooked from, and I was a very busy parent, you know, and I would always cook my meals from scratch. Be very careful as to what I give them to eat. No sweets at all. My kids never used to have sweets.
Good.
Never.
So then, you know what, seeing as we're going on the different opinions, let's look at the streets of London with Jennifer Lon and find out what the people out there thought about childhood obesity.
How would you approach a child to tell them that they're overweight?
I think maybe I would suggest that they would maybe exercise a little.
I don't think there's any good way to approach a child telling them they're overweight, because they're a growing mind and a growing person, and whatever you say is going to have an influence on them, how they grow up. I think it's down to the parents to influence their diet and how they think about themselves.
It depends on the relationship you have with that child. So if you're like a parent or carer, I think it's easier to sort of mellow them down and tell them about their weight and stuff. But I think if you're like an outsider, it's a kind of bit of a different story.
I think if a child is overweight, it probably stems from home. So maybe you should be doing like more casual things, like inadvertently doing more exercise or eating better things, but not actually telling them as much.
I wouldn't talk to the child, I'd talk to the parent.
Probably quite subtly, just to make sure that you don't offend them, I suppose. But I think it's an extremely important issue that obviously they need to be aware of.
You have to walk a fine line, because a child can go the opposite direction and end up having an eating disorder if you don't approach it the right way.
And whose responsibility do you think it is to manage a child's weight?
I mean, ultimately it depends on the age of the child, but I would say probably the parents obviously should be kind of looking into that and making sure that they're not eating the wrong kinds of foods and they are sort of keeping on top of things, definitely, yeah.
Their parents, really, yeah. Their family members, their parents should...
Parents, and to a certain extent, if not parents, doctors.
It's mainly the parents, and it should be a responsibility of the school as well to influence them to make better food choices and to not be able to, you know, don't have fizzy drinks or sweets readily available to them, and actually teach them about, you know, sugar is an, you know, addictive substance and it shouldn't be in our diets.
And what do you think causes child obesity?
Oh, well, obesity in general, it's either hereditary, I think, or it's lack of exercise.
Some parents overfeed their children, and I think maybe some children go through stress, so that could be a factor as well.
I think kind of also education to a certain degree. So like, I think what you're brought up with, so your like the foods you have at home and, you know, the amount of sport you do, but also just like at school, if you're told something's unhealthy, it gets into you and like society around you tells you what's healthy and what isn't.
It could be the environment they're raised in. It could also be the fact that the parents eat very bad foods or, you know, generally kind of fried foods, etc. So it's important to kind of keep a healthy, balanced diet.
Sugary drinks, I suppose. Yeah, I think a lot of children now drink too much sugary drinks. Should drink water.
Hello everybody, welcome back to DKW. We're talking childhood obesity and we're also having a little bit of a giggle during the break. Ladies, do you think that fat babies make fat adults or fat children make fat adults?
Go, Verena.
Well, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I've had 5 babies.
Right.
And I love to have fat babies. For me, skinny babies, they look unhealthy.
I was a skinny baby. Look at how I did that.
Well, exactly. You were a skinny baby, and by the age of 5, you were wearing a size 12.
It was 9, I was wearing a size 12, yeah.
12, right. So I think it's healthy to have a fat baby. I think there's nothing wrong with a fat baby, because what babies do, I mean, I was babysitting my grandson last weekend, and all he did was to drink and sleep. You know? That's what they do. You feed them every 2.5 hours, and then they go to sleep. They wake up, you feed them again, and that's what babies do. So they will put on weight. They're meant to put on weight. However, I think, and I was saying during the break that Gemma here, she's my daughter, and you know, she was a skinny little baby, and I felt there was something wrong with her because all my babies were big before she came along. And then I remember taking her to the doctors and saying, well, I'm worried because she just won't eat, she won't drink, she won't eat. And the doctors said, well, you know, she's got a small stomach. She will never eat as much as the other children. Right. You know, because she's got a very small stomach. And she just wouldn't put on any weight. But now you are putting on weight.
That's the battle of my life, you see. And that's the thing. And I still have that small stomach in the terms of I can't eat big plates, but I eat all the time. So as soon as it's digested, I'm eating again. Do you know what I mean? So to answer that question, I was a skinny baby. But then through my... maybe I'd say teens, I really struggled with my weight. Really, yeah, I really did. And then also, this is why I made the comment about girls, because also I felt that as a girl, with my brothers, they don't seem to be that into weight, like caring about it. And also family members, because we're from a Caribbean background, they have a thing of telling you when you're big, and I think it's probably the same in African families as well. And I don't know, but they're kind of like, oh gosh, you're so fat. And they say it as just a comment.
General, yeah.
And I remember I always used to get that from aunties and so on. But my brothers, if they'd have a pot belly or whatever, people don't say anything. Yeah,
no one
people
could
don't care. And we lived in the Caribbean for a little bit, and we'd go to the beach and everything, and I'd be self-conscious about wearing a swimsuit. Whereas them, belly or not, let's go. And that's guys, you know what I mean? So I think women are a lot more self-conscious, also because of what people say as well.
Yes,
you know,
women are more self-conscious.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I was a chubby baby.
Okay.
I was chubby, and I think I was chubby until I was about maybe 5 or 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
5 or 6.
And then the weight just, it was just baby fat, then it just melted off.
It's a little bit more than baby fat. There's a little bit more than that, Jennifer. Yeah, not that I wanted to admit it, but yeah, I was chubby. But then afterwards, I started losing it. But my weight has always been like up and down with me, up and down.
But then I think, I don't know if you would agree, Gemma, because we're the younger ones on the couch there.
Yeah.
Would you say that our generation, however, then is different? Because like looking at your generation and the generation older, like my mum's generation, they didn't have PlayStations, computers, you know, travel wasn't as easy as it is now these days. So you was constantly on the move. Like, for example, you didn't have video games and stuff like that. So you wouldn't be sat at home in front of the TV. You'll be out playing and so on and so forth. Do you think that's contributed to the obesity?
I think I definitely, because I do have a younger son who I have fought with to get him away from the PlayStation, to get him out there playing football, basketball, whatever, you know, and it's a bit of a fight, you know, and this is something new to me because, you know, when my kids were younger, I would just take them to the park, you know, get them into tennis, get them to play basketball, you know, just running around, send them out in the garden to play. But to actually get my youngest son to leave the TV and to leave the PlayStation, to go out to the garden and kick a ball or something, it's a chore. It really is difficult.
I think that is the main problem these days. You know, children.
It's not interesting.
It's no,
to go outside.
It's not interesting. It's not interesting to go and kick a football or anything. But I think it's all to do with the games. It's all to do with children. They finish eating and that's it. They're sitting down. So there's no exercise after that.
There's no exercise.
Sometimes it's safety as well. It's trust. So with parents nowadays, the media scares us. Now I'm not a parent, but I just think, oh my goodness, with paedophiles, they seem to be always round the corner. And then you think about safety and, you know, letting your children play outside is not the same as it was 20 years ago. Do you see what I mean? Because people worry about being kidnapped, etc. So sometimes you do feel like you want to keep them at home and you're very limited at what you can do at home. So then there is the TV, and then some parents are very, very busy and they're just tired and they don't want to drop you off to an activity or take you. And the other thing is, again, I bring it in, cost, because I was going to join badminton lessons every single week with my sister, ready to sign up, until they told me it's £11 an hour. I said, what? And I've still got to hire the racket as well. I said, nah, forget it. I prefer to stay at home.
But then,
do you see what I mean?
Would you argue that's a cost that you're sacrificing and taking out on your overall health long term?
Yeah.
You know what? But on that note, some of the DKW ladies did go out. They went outdoors in the city and they had loads of fun. So take a look at this video if you need some ideas on what to do outdoors.
Lovely viewers, it's Lisa and Shireen from DKW, and as you can see, we are dressed so fantastically stylishly today. It's all for a good reason. We are here at Outdoors in the City, and we're taking a break from the office. We're getting out there, having fun, because not enough people do that, do they?
It's so true, so true. You're always in front of your sofa with a packet of chips, watching all the soap operas back to back.
So we are trying a new fun way to get fit.
Yes.
And if you're like us and grew up in the 90s, you remember the show Gladiators and all the fun activities. Well, look, we have the wall today, but there's going to be no one chasing us. But we're going to have an absolutely fantastic time. So join us and see how we get on. Okay, so we're here with Caroline and Jack from Outdoors in the City, and you guys have looked after us fantastically well, I have to say. It's been a really, really, really fun afternoon. So what inspired this?
An amazing woman, Breed Arkless. She was the first ever European mountain guide that was female. An incredible woman, lots and lots of children of her own, but a real keen outdoor enthusiast that worked with an amazing man, Kevin Jenkins, one of the co-founders of the charity that run the site, to build a little oasis of outdoor adventure and access to the outdoors in the inner city, and create some of those experiences that you can get from being in the outdoors, climbing and pushing yourselves to do these adventurous things in the heart of the town. I think as human beings we're built to be active outdoors. There's something really exciting about the elements and being out in the fresh air that really can sort of light a fire under you and really get you going. And for some people that are not really, keen on the gym or the sports hall, especially for children, to come and flourish in a physical way in a very different place.
Fantastic. And Jack, you're a volunteer here. What made you decide to even be part of this project?
For me, it was just seeking a new experience, something I've never done before. So I heard there was an open day here, come down on my little pedal bike, arrived at the gate saying, can I come in and help, please? And come in, had a good day, a good experience, and Caroline sort of kept me in the cupboard and not let me go home yet.
So how old were you when you first came across this?
I was 12 years old. I'm currently 18 years old now, so it's not been that long. But I'm volunteering for 5 years, been working here as a sessional worker for about a year, and now I'm on apprenticeship here.
So what is it that makes you stay?
For me, I think it's working with a variety of different people that have never done this sort of stuff before, and just being able to work with them and show them something new.
That all sounds really great. So we have had an absolutely amazing time down here, and we want to encourage everyone to come down. Isn't that right, Shireen?
Most definitely. I was really afraid to come and do these things. I had a lot of fear inside of me, but I must say I feel so great for having done this rock climbing challenge. I reached the top, and you do feel amazing. I do feel like I've achieved something and faced my fears. Thanks for all your wonderful help. I mean, it's so lovely. It's fabulous.
Thanks, guys. Oh my gosh, fun was scary as hell.
Well, that looked like a laugh. It looks like Lisa and Shireen are having the time of their life. But you know what, ladies, I was just thinking about something. Do you think that parents know when their children are fat? Or do you think that they can ever come to terms if they know that they've got an overweight child? I know it's really bizarre. I'm just thinking about myself, for example. I was quite chubsy-wubsy, I'll put it that way. I won't use the term fat.
Yeah.
But my parents, I think they struggled with it, even though they knew that I was fat, and they would tell me, okay, darling, you're overweight.
Yeah. The thing about parenting is this. Your children are a reflection of who you are.
Right.
Yeah. They really are. And for you to admit as a parent that you've got a child that is overweight, it's basically saying, I have failed. And one of the things, parents do not like to feel that they have failed their children at all.
Yeah.
So yes, they do recognize. Of course you would know if your child is overweight. You would, but it's admitting that you have failed.
Or it's admitting that I too am overweight, because if they're a reflection of you, sometimes, a lot of the times I find, and this is a generalization, if the parents are fit and they're into activities, etc., and they're into fitness and being healthy, their children are a reflection of that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, if the parents are quite big, the children will be quite, and they seem to follow the same habits.
So, Jem, are you saying fat parents make fat kids?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I agree. It's a lifestyle thing, Jen. I agree. It's a lifestyle, because when I was younger and my children were young, I was really a fit person. I was into health, and
she used to give us. She used to make carrot juice and give us carrot juice and things like that.
I was So my children, I raised them up in the same way. Making sure they were enrolled into after school activities and swimming and tennis and whatever else, and eating healthy and drinking natural juices and all of that, because I was into that, you see.
And to be honest with you, although I did have my chubby times during my teens, now that I'm older and an adult, I love healthy eating. I prefer it to junk food. And because we didn't grow up with chocolate and crisps at home, even now, like, I can have it occasionally when I go to the cinema and so on, but it's not part of my everyday life, junk food, because we didn't grow up with that. We didn't have it in the house. So do you see what I mean?
Then again, let's face it, why would an overweight parent really watch what their children are eating? I mean, a bit contradicting, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true, because you're eating the same.
You're eating what you want to eat, and you're actually going to watch what your children are eating. It doesn't make sense.
It can go another way, because I remember I did have a family member, and her mum is quite overweight. In fact, very, very overweight. Actually, 2 I know of. And her daughter, it's like for her, she's so traumatized by her weight that she just will not allow her daughter to get any bigger. She's always constantly, you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight. And there's another one as well who's got a son, he plays professional football now, but she was morbidly obese. Like she was really, really big, to the point where she had to have, I've forgotten that thing where they shrink
bypass.
Yeah, that's it. And so, and it traumatized her. She was like, my son's never going to be like me. My son's never going to be like...
So you're projecting your own insecurities and your own issues with food and with weight onto your children then. And that will definitely affect them once they go into their teens. Because I just feel like if you... And I'm not judging anybody that has to have a gastric bypass surgery or what have you, but it's like if you've got an issue with food and then you're like, no, you can never be fat, you can never be fat. Yeah. You're kind of sending out this message like fat is bad, but in the wrong way. And then that child, when they grow up, they'll probably do things in the wrong way and they won't have a healthy relationship with their body.
Anyway, that's the wrong way to do it. It's not like fear. It's not like you're saying to your child, you can never be fat, but then you're cooking fat meals. You know what I mean?
That's true.
You know, it's not about what you say. It's about what you do.
Yeah, an overweight parent will have all the wrong things in the cupboard. Will have all the wrong things in the fridge.
Do you know what? We're going to hash it out on the couch with our nutritionist, Tina Roberts, who's going to be coming on to discuss weight management and nutrition. And hopefully we can throw some questions at her and find out, do fat parents make fat kids? So stay tuned. We'll be back. Hello, welcome to DKW. We're talking childhood obesity today, and we've got the lovely Tina Roberts with us in the studio. Hi, Tina.
Hello. Hello.
It's lovely to meet you. Tina, you run Alive and Kicking in Croydon. Tell us a bit about your work there and what you do.
Okay, so the Alive and Kicking programme is a free, fun and informative programme for parents who wish to empower themselves in order to lead a nice, healthy lifestyle for themselves and for their family. So we talk about different topics of nutrition each week, which incorporates also physical activity. And we run different programmes across different boroughs in the UK.
great.
Oh wow, that sounds amazing.
Really good.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're trying to educate parents.
Yeah. Okay. So on. Let's get straight into it. So you've heard us talking and so on. Whose responsibility, in your opinion, is it to manage a child's weight?
I believe that it's the parents' responsibility initially. They are responsible for what goes into their shopping basket, what they bring into the house, what they provide their children with. They are ultimately the role model for that young person. I believe as they get older, there is some responsibility that lies with the child. For example, when they are spending more and more time away from home, when they are making their own choices, secondary school, 12 or 13, going off with their friends, peer pressure, they're more, they want.
You said that and I thought of the dreaded chicken and chip shop across the road from the secondary school. Yes. And when you're going home or on the bus, you just see a whole flock or herd of kids in front of these, they're like a pound meals and so on and so forth.
Because that goes back, because I was just thinking, when you said that, I remember my secondary school day, every single day I used to get a quarter pounder of cheese because I got the 99p voucher after school, didn't I?
I remember those.
Do you remember?
I remember that.
Hence why I ballooned a little bit, so yeah.
So do you think that weight management should be part of a lifestyle? Do you believe that it should really be part of a lifestyle, but not just something that you do on and off, on and off, on and off?
Whoops. I think it should be at the forefront of everybody's lifestyle. It should be a part of a whole output that we have as a person. So, for example, we are now in more sedentary jobs, so we are not more physically active in that way. We are consuming more energy-dense, high-sugar foods. So, it should be at the forefront. There's no point thinking about, I'll go to the gym one day and then the next week. It should be something that you're actively doing, even just by walking, getting off at the bus stop a little bit earlier, taking an extra 10-minute walk. That is all incorporated into a healthy lifestyle.
I agree.
Are there any particular food that parents should avoid giving to their children?
Yes. Well, I don't think that banning any types of food would be helpful for parent or child.
Wow. Really? Wow. Would you say that? So sorry. The reason why I asked that, I know it's really naughty of me. So, are you saying junk food is okay to a certain degree?
I think what's most important is to make sure that we are limiting, and parents should be moderating what is going into their young person's mouth. So banning foods totally is not really a good idea. It's not helpful for both parents, because there are situations where you may be out and it may be easier just to pop in and fetch something that is of convenience, and quite often they are high fat, high sugar foods. What's important is to try and limit those because they don't carry any nutritional value with them. So I think limiting and moderating children's intake of those types of foods is very important.
I mean, you mentioned nutritional value. Do you think that there's certain foods that parents should stick to? And do you agree with things like, for example, multivitamins and chewables and stuff like that for kids?
For me, I believe that you should get most of your nutrients from the food that you are consuming as opposed to supplementation.
I love a good supplement.
I said that because I'm really, really naughty. We were discussing this before the show about the supplements that we'd like to take.
In tablet form. Yeah.
I think for children, I think it should be coming from the 5 different food groups, getting good sources of carbohydrates, good sources of protein, and our dairy foods, and just limiting the foods that are high in fat, salt and sugar, and just ensuring that they're moderated and for special occasions, really.
But then, so in that case, how do you change your child's behaviour when it comes to food and eating healthier? How do you, because there's so much advertisements as well pumped in their face. I mean, I'm out with my nieces and nephews and they'll say, oh, Happy Meal because of the toy, and then initially it's all about the toy, but then afterwards it's about the burger or the chips or whatever it is that they want to eat at whatever restaurant. So how do you promote that healthier lifestyle or change their perception on food?
I think parents have to act as role models, as well as other caregivers. So, for example, those who are a teaching environment, any after-school clubs, things like that, they need to be active role models in changing children's behaviours. Also, I believe that getting children to cook using cooking skills, getting them involved in sort of purchasing foods, into making a recipe, things like that really. Getting them involved in activities and clubs. Things don't always necessarily have to cost lots of money, and I think parents should be actively involving their children in those types of things. Obviously there's pressures now for parents, a lot more ladies are working, we're not at home, you know, we rely on other people to take our children to those places, and the same, you know, so it's very difficult.
I think it's a lot to do with planning, because you know, I raised 5 children and I've always worked, you know. And I remember planning my meals, you know, making sure that weekends when I go shopping, I have an idea of what I'll be cooking every day throughout the week. Right. You know, and plan my meals, you know. So then weekends, I could take the kids to McDonald's. They can have McDonald's as a treat, you know, and that was fine. They were happy with that, you know. But I think it's all about planning your meals. Not, you know, sometimes you may find yourself being so busy that you just say, oh, you know, I'll just take them off and to KFC or to McDonald's, and the next day you end up doing the same thing again. And I think if you plan what you're going to cook for the week at least, then I think you'll be fine.
I also did the same thing. And I find it was a lot better. There used to be the occasional like treats, like come Saturday now,
you take
we'll
them
go,
off
we'll take yes. But during the week, I will always know what I'm cooking, everything, and even the packed lunch as well. Even though they're going to Minders or they're going to nursery, but there's there's a balance as well. So you know, as a parent, you know what you want your child to eat. You know, you're not. It's up to you. You're gonna, you know, if you're a parent that's going to put crisps, sweets, chocolate, and everything in that packed lunch, that's exactly what your child is going to have.
Speaking about parents, because this is a personal question, because I know that you're a mother, which I love because you're talking from experience. Your children, would you ever talk to them about size at all?
Yes. That's a good one.
As a nutritionist?
Yes, as a nutritionist and a mother, I have 2 children, and my daughter left to her own devices. You know, so we have had the conversation with her about, you know, sort of being careful, not too much, but just being careful. Do we necessarily need to have that, because she doesn't seem to have an off switch? So we need to be mindful of that. So nothing too harsh. I wouldn't want her self-esteem or confidence to be knocked, because she's a very outgoing individual. So I think it's important to have the conversation if you feel necessary, but to do it in a very sensitive manner. And so, you know, it's a very sensitive subject, isn't it?
It really is. That actually leads me on to my next question, actually, because we were talking before the break about, you know, parents not always being able to see when their kids are overweight. So who refers children to you, or like parents to you? Is it the parents? Is it the schools? Is it doctors? Who is usually the ones that come to you and ask you for advice?
We have a mixed bag, really. So we have lots of self-referrals, so parents who have recognised that their children, you know, may be developing a sort of little podgy belly or a little double chin, and they are genuinely concerned. And when they hear of a programme like the Alive and Kicking, then they give us a call, and once we've explained to them what the programme entails, they're really, really excited about it. Other parents are not so excited about it and would then need a referral from maybe the school nurse or from the GP. But you know, once we've got those on board, what we would like to sort of highlight really is trying to get more health professionals to not be so, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of set back. It's still a very sensitive issue, as I say, so they're not so confident in raising the issue of weight with parents in their, you know, in their professional setting. So it would be good if more health professionals were more confident in raising the issue of weight in order to make those referrals, and so not to offend.
That's a good point.
That's a very, very good point, because I mean, if you're a general practitioner or a GP, you're sitting in the seat and then you're looking at the child and you're thinking, cool, she's really big. Like, you don't want to necessarily say it to the parent because you don't want to offend them. So, I mean, talking from parent to parent then, what do you think parents can do then to limit childhood obesity, if we ever could?
just be really positive and active. Seek out what's in your community. You know, we don't all have lots of money to be taking part in some activities, but seek out what's in your area. The internet is a very good tool to use. I would encourage cooking skills, because, you know, if you can cook a meal from scratch, then you're halfway there. Then that eliminates us using the processed foods aisle for our ready meals, which are obviously a convenience food. And to just be motivated and praise, love. You don't have to give love through food.
Oh, I love that. That's absolutely brilliant. Do you know what? Could you elaborate on that? You don't
have to give love through food. Well, what we normally do, we use food as a punishment or a reward quite often.
Very true.
So, for example,
I remember those days.
For example, if you go and tidy your bedroom, you can have a sweet. If you're bad today, because you're bad, you're not going to have that treat. So we need to try and avoid using food as a reward or a punishment, and we need to reward children with lots of praise and encouragement. And equally, if they're not so good, we need to, you know, use other ways of dealing with
It shows just how important it is to actually educate parents. Because it all starts with the parents.
And you know, on that note, we're running out of time for this segment. Tina has been absolutely amazing. Thank you for that. I'm sure there's a lot of parents that are watching now, like scribbling down notes of things that they need to do. It's been absolutely amazing. Stay tuned. We'll be going to the break, but we'll be back on more with childhood obesity.
People normally think that there's no greater influence as powerful as Hollywood, but I beg to differ, because Godlywood is really making its mark in the world. Now, for those of you that don't know, Godlywood is an initiative aiming to lead women of all ages to become exemplary women of God. We teach women how to make a positive impact in their own lives and their families through monthly tasks and meetings. And one of the great things about Godlywood as well is that we also learn to be giving, so we go out and help our communities. And one of the ways we do that in the UK through regular visits to elderly homes to pamper them and to keep them company. We also have regular events to help abused women, and we have many more plans to help our community. I ended up overcoming lots of insecurities and bad habits, and I've grown so much. And one of the things that I finally beat was the shyness that I had, and I'm doing things that I never ever imagined that I would be doing. And we have many more plans to help our community. So to summarise everything, Godlywood really changes lives, and I'm so privileged to be a part of it.
Hello, it's DKW and we're talking childhood obesity. We've been having a right giggle on this subject, but it is actually as well quite serious. You know, ladies, I've got a stat here. I don't know if you've heard this, but it says the number of children who are obese may have stopped growing in the UK, but it has tripled in England over the past 25 years. Worldwide, over 42 million children under 5 are overweight in 2013. So that's a lot, 42 million overweight under 5s. If the current trend continues, the number of overweight or obese children will increase to 70 million by 2025. Research shows that childhood obesity is twice as likely in poorer areas. Why do you think obesity and poverty are linked? Ladies, do you agree? I mean, they're basically from the study, they're concluding that people are more likely to be obese, or children rather, if they're living in poverty.
Yeah, I think if your parents work a lot, or if you're from a single parent family who has to work to support children, so then obviously money's an issue, but time can be an issue sometimes. So sometimes you do have to go for the convenience foods. And this is what I was saying at the top of the show, you can't always, and it's a little bit sad, you don't always feel that you can get the best. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that's probably why. But I'd also like to talk about this whole overweight thing, because I went to the hospital recently, and everyone knows I'm on a diet, right? But I went to the hospital and I got on the scale and there was a BMI chart on there, and it did say that I was obese according to my BMI. Yeah, according to my BMI. Just borderline overweight, obese, but I was still...
But that's still, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, the nurse walked by and said, that chart will never make you happy. So I started laughing, and then when I checked it, she was so right, because it showed that I was borderline from overweight, obese, so according to my BMI, because I'm quite short. And then I thought, do you know what, when we were talking about this topic, and I know what Tina was saying about sometimes GPs not wanting to refer, or not being as, you know, brazen, if you like, to refer them. Sometimes it's quite hard to tell, because if a child is a little bit overweight, then do you necessarily see that as a problem, or do you think, oh, they'll grow out of it?
Yeah, like baby fat.
Yeah, and then I wonder, what are we judging it by? Like this, is it by a BMI? Because, you know, for instance, I don't feel unhealthy at the moment. Right. I do know I need to lose a few pounds, but if I was to say, oh, it's going to affect my health and so on and so forth, I would never think of it as that serious. Do you see what I mean?
I completely agree. I mean, I do want to put a little disclaimer out. I'm not saying that BMIs and all of the other like generic measurement tools that they have for medicine are bad, but with that BMI thing, I think it's a bit hit and miss, especially if you're from a certain ethnic background. This is my opinion, and your weight is distributed differently. It then kind of makes you feel really bad about your body shape and your weight. And I think if one person carries more muscle mass than the other, I mean, how can you tell if that person's overweight? Because they could perhaps weigh the same as the other person who's deemed obese or unfit. Nevertheless, they might be carrying more muscle.
Yeah, I also think, again, going back to the whole cultural thing, I know that my sister, she's married to an African man, and he does not like any skinny women, for instance. He was just like, it just doesn't look healthy to me, because he's from a country, whereas if you're bigger boned and if you've got meat on you, you're healthy, and she's strong and she's eating well and she's okay. And even when my other sister lost weight, he was like, what is wrong with her? She's losing too much weight. Like, in Europe, we were like, wow, she looks fabulous, you look amazing, da, da, da. And he was like, looks terrible. So culture does play a part in how we view people's weight, even our children's weight, maybe.
Yeah, I definitely agree. What do you think about Verena? Because I can see you looking there profusively like,
Yeah. You see, the thing with children and weight, you know, my main concern is about what you're feeding your children. And I think I've said it many times throughout the show, that it's really important to concentrate on feeding your children well. And feeding your children well is not feeding them junk food. And I think you mentioned something about poverty and obesity. Do they go hand in hand? And if you allow it to, yes, it can go hand in hand, because, you know, if you look at the supermarkets now, you can go to Morrison's with, well, any supermarket, go with, for example, £5, and you can pick up a pizza for £1. You could pick up a packet of chips for £1. You know, and it's so much easier to take that home and just
bang it in the oven.
Just bang in the oven and give to your kids. Yeah. However, if you shop with that same £5 and you think about what you're going to give to your children, you could probably pick up something healthy and take home and have a soup. Maybe, you know, do something similar, healthier, but, you know, for the same amount of money. If you think about what you're buying, and that's what I would like parents to think about, is actually thinking about what you're buying. You know, because your £5 could go a little bit further if you think about what you're buying. Because it's so much easier to just say, okay, I'm just going to pick up a pizza. I'm just going to buy this. It's easier.
That's a good point, actually, because maybe you can get another meal out of it sometimes, you know, if you cook rice or something.
I completely understand that, and I do agree, but then on the flip side, I've seen parents struggle with, it's not just about what you're buying, it's about the quality of what you're buying. And like, there was a whole debate on genetically modified fruits versus organic fruit. Yeah. And now you pick up a a GM apple and it's what, 50 pence or 30 pence, but an organic apple of that same make, it's like £1.30. So then you've got to struggle, and then some will say, well, that's pumped with so many chemicals anyway, there's no difference between picking up a chocolate bar. Not that I agree with them saying that you should do it, but that's what some people might argue. It's like now these days, the quality, if you want to make a good meal, that's going to go a long way. The quality of what you're buying sometimes it's just not as great. Like you might buy GM vegetables, and within a couple of weeks they're still looking fresh because they're pumped with all of these chemicals. So then there's also that concern for that parent. I don't know what you think.
I think parents are overwhelmed. I mean, we live in a world where I'm just so happy that my kids are adults now. I'm just so happy, but I've got grandchildren now, and now I think, we live in a world where, you've got to be so up and up about everything, and what I'm saying to parents, if you've got small children, you need to try your very best to make sure that you give them a healthy diet. And I do understand, if funds are limited, your finances are very limited, that you can't go off and buy organic food. But you know what? It's better that you buy the bag of apples, which will cost you £1, and give your child an apple a day, rather than trying to get the organic one, which you can never afford, and letting them go without apples in the first place.
Totally, exactly. I agree with that, because I was going to say it's about education, because even with the GM foods, like that did happen, because we went and we saw broccoli, which was £1 something, and the organic one was £1 something, and then the one that wasn't organic was 40p in the supermarket. So I was like, But then we learnt from another nutritionist that, if you are to wash it or if you're to peel the apple, then it'll be completely fine. Do you know what I mean? Because you'll give it, so it's rather than saying, I'm not going to give them anything. And I think I think parents just need to stick to the basics, basically. That your kids are supposed to have their 5 a day, they're supposed to drink water, etc. If you stick to the basics, I don't think you'll go wrong. Because if you look at what's in the media, GM foods and all this stuff, you will just be overwhelmed, like Verena said, and then you'll make the wrong choices.
And you will just stick to the McDonald's and the fast foods and the £1 pizzas,
which is not good.
Because you just can't understand what I need to feed my kids. I'm overwhelmed here. Let me just stick to what I know. That's what we don't want parents to do.
I remember watching one of those cookery show one day, and I think it was under £5. But I can't remember who it was now, whose show it was. But the meal, it was he was saying something about how you can cook a very healthy food for under £5. And believe me, I was so taken with the show that it was just amazing. So like Verena was saying, it's all about teaching. It's all about being balanced. It's all about, you as a parent taking control. That's what it's about. You are in control of the child. You decide.
What I've learned from this is I think everything starts in your mind. It's like, it's your mentality. If you think that you can't eat healthily, you won't be able to. If you think that is too much, you won't be able to do it. But if you think, no, I can, you'll find a way to do it. So everything starts in the mind. And the same thing is, if you think about what you're putting into your body and how you're living your life as a parent, then you'll see that actually maybe my children are indeed a reflection of me. So maybe we're looking at the children, but maybe we need to focus more on the parents.
Do you know, and I even want to conclude on that note, because we're coming towards the end of the show. I think it's all about responsibility. Everybody needs to take responsibility for their own actions. And I'm going to start on the health thing. If you are a parent, you have a responsibility now, i.e. your child. So it's up to you to make sure your child has the best, like what Verena was saying. And it's not just even with food and healthy eating. It's in all areas of your life. If you want to be successful, if you want to have a great turnout, you have to have good investment. And that is, once again, your responsibility. It works with your food, it works with career, investing in yourself, it works in your relationships and your family, investing in them. Everything that we want depends on ourselves and if we're willing to take on that responsibility. And I think that's the same with our kids and tackling childhood obesity. Would you agree?
Yes,
definitely. Yes. Ladies, we've come to the end of the show. It's been absolutely brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed myself on the show and I learned a lot. So from us here at the DKW studio to you there on your couch this Sunday, have a fantastic afternoon and take care. See you. Bye.
Bye.